Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show, a podcast devoted to helping you take your message, your business, and your life to the next level. This, my friends, is episode number 447, and if you haven't guessed it already, I am your host, Cliff Ravenscraft, the podcast answer man. And in this week's episode, we're going to be sharing with you, or I'm going to be sharing with you, a conversation with my good friend, Michael O'Neill. Now, in last week's episode, I told you that one of my biggest takeaways from Social Media Marketing World 2016 was a deeper connection, a deeper relationship with several folks, and one of those individuals was Michael. And I told you that I had anticipated bringing him onto the show, and without any further ado, we're just going to jump into a conversation right now. Michael, what's up, my friend?
Well, geez, I'm excited to be here, Mr. Ravenscraft. I had you live in person last week, and now we are live to hard drive. So it's almost the same, but it is not quite as handsome.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, I'm excited to have you here. In spite of the fact that I don't often do interviews, but for whatever reason, you talked me into it this past week. You said, "Hey, I want to be on your show," and I'm like, Let's make it happen. What the heck? Why not? There's no doubt. There is no question in my mind whether or not you have some value to offer the audience in your experience and what you've been doing in podcasting. So let's bring it.
I feel special, first of all, and I have to say something. It's you look at a guy like Leo Laporte or the godfather of podcasting. I think you, Cliff Ravenscraft, are the godfather of entrepreneurial podcasting. I think you really set the trend for the rest of us to be able to make a living from this medium. So kudos to you, my friend.
Well, I've been very blessed to get in early. And of course, my own bent was to get in and try to figure out the entrepreneurial angle to this for myself, just so I could find a way to make a living by doing what it is I love to do most, which is encouraging and educating other people's helping people take their lives to the next level. And I don't know what it is, man. I just had the awesome blessing, one right after another, to help some of the biggest online influencers launch their podcast. I was able to personally train them and bring them on board. And it's just been a good position to be in.
Well, now you got that voice too. Like you've got the Ravenscraft radio voice. Well, we just call it the Ravenscraft now.
We just call it the Ravenscraft.
We walk around going, "Have you gotten the Ravenscraft yet?" And we're like, "Yeah, dude, I'm hooking it up."
All right. Well, I want to jump right into your story, Michael. When did you get into podcasting? Actually, when did you first hear about podcasting?
My first experience with podcasting was I was a huge a fan of The Office, and the funny one, the British one, not the American version, but I really liked The Office. And I was also a tech nerd guy. So I listened to Twit, This Week in Tech with Leo Laporte, and I listened to the Ricky Gervais podcast. And that had to be like 2005. And yep. I was just a huge fan and a consumer for many, many years until around 2011 when I was working with this company, and there was a guy at the company that was the head of personal development. And I'd seen this guy speak in front of 10,000 people, and you could hear a pin drop. He was that amazing of a speaker. He really commanded a room. And he came to me with a YouTube question. And my history, my career, I've got this amalgamation of I was a web and print designer, a branding guy, and also a professional drummer. So I knew a lot about sound and stuff like that. Not a ton. You know as much as you know being a drummer. We're not like using a lot of mics and stuff all the time, but I knew enough to be around, and I'd sung on stage, so I knew a little bit about how to use a microphone. And he came to me with a YouTube question, this guy, and I said, I can answer the question, David, but we should really think about growing your brand, And he said, well, how do we do that? I said, well, what about a podcast? And he goes, what's a podcast? It's 2011. And I said, well, it's like a radio show, and it's like a on-demand radio show. And he goes, all right. So I used my whole background, in design and everything. I created this brand for him called The Kick-Ass Life with David Wood. And, I did the voiceover at the beginning. I did the intro music. I did everything. He spoke into the mic. I literally did everything else for that show. And we launched the show. It instantly became a perennial top 5, top 10 overall show in health. And we, all of a sudden we're doing 4,000 or 5,000 downloads a day and steadily growing. And it was like, oh, all right, so this is a thing. He grew this big brand. We grew a big Facebook group, and I saw how you could create a really amazing community from podcasting. So we kind of prided ourselves on recording shows from all over the world because I totally took the Cliff Ravenscraft, like 6 out of podcast videos. And so my methodology was always, real mixer, analog to, I went to a Zoom H4n versus the one that you'd had, but that's what I had. That was the recorder I had. So he took that thing all over the world, and he would record his shows and then upload them to Dropbox, and I would publish them. And we did shows from Belize and Australia and Bali and you name it. And so he was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in 2013, early 2013. And he was off the grid. Like, he was completely and utterly off the grid. We thought we had enough shows. We did not have enough shows. And so I stepped in and I recorded a show, and you'll find this really ironic when I tell you like the backstory of all this, but I recorded a show on social media. I did 45 minutes on social media and, did it fully in GarageBand, didn't know anything about anything. And a couple things happened. Number one, I found it to be insanely comfortable and natural for me to do. I think it was all those years listening to Howard Stern growing up. And then B, I had all of these people that wrote to me and said, you should do that. That's a thing that you are good at, and you should do more of that. And I thought, that's kind of interesting. And then, I don't know, probably a month or two later, I had lunch with Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income here in San Diego. And we did like what you and I did last week. We like literally talked about what dudes talk about, didn't talk about business too much. Yep. We talked about our relationships and our lives, and we talked cars, and we talked girls, and we talked whatever. And when we left that lunch, he's literally stopped in his tracks. He turned to me and he said, dude, thank you. I never get to do that. All I'm talking about is business and funnels and Smart Passive Income. I never just get to kind of like connect.
Yeah.
And I thought, wouldn't that be an interesting idea for a show? What if I brought these people that had notoriety on my show, but it wasn't about their 10 tips on how to grow a mailing list, or like, what if I just got to know them as people? What would happen then? And so I launched my show, which is called the Solopreneur Hour, in August of 2013. And man, that was 415 episodes and almost 8 million downloads ago. So I think that people kind of like seeing the rest of the story, and they like hearing about who the reality behind the person is. So it's something I love. It's my favorite thing to do. Even when it's late and something happens and I have to record a show, I can't wait to turn the mic on. And I know you know what I'm talking about.
I do know exactly what you're talking about. And, that's one thing that I can say for you is that I wouldn't have even pinpointed it until you actually said what Pat told you. But I was asking myself, why was I so drawn to you at Social Media Marketing World last week? I know that we've grown we've grown a lot closer via Snapchat lately, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about Snapchat later. I'd like to anyway. But I think you just nailed it. We went to this industry conference, and as you might imagine, I'm usually faced with hundreds of people who want to talk shop. And that's cool. I mean, that's why these people pay to come to these conferences, right? And of course, I love to give it. I really do. I enjoy helping people, answering their questions and stuff like that. But it takes a lot out of you when you're at these industry events. And I can't remember you and I talking business at all.
I don't think we touched it.
I don't think we even came close. We talked
Snapchat. We talked a bit of Snapchat.
Yeah, but Snapchat was hanging out. I mean, it was more what it was like an enthusiastic passion for Snapchat, not how are we using this to grow our brand or our business.
Well, here's what's interesting, dude, is that I did. If you and I talked out in the world 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. Well, 2 years ago, because my show hasn't been going for 3 years. And we didn't know each other very well. it would have been a very quiet, kind of socially awkward evening.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't yet connected. And this is really interesting, dude. I would be at like happy hour here. So this was exactly what happened. I was out at happy hour with a friend of mine, and she brought a girlfriend, and then she eventually went to the restroom. So it was just me and her girlfriend standing there, and it could not have been more like topical, awful kind of conversation. Just awkward, trying to be polite social conversation, and and a lot of silence. And I for the first time ever, I said, "Wait a second. How am I able to flip my microphone on and have this great, engaging conversation for an hour easily?" And sometimes I have to stop us at, an hour and 27. But I can't sit here and talk to this person for 5 minutes. So I mentally flipped a switch and put a microphone in front of my mouth mentally. And then boom, I like engaged and started having this great conversation with this girl. And I thought, why was there a disconnect? What's going on there? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Why was my normal social interaction different than what I do on the microphone? And so for the last 2 years or so, I've been really trying to develop my natural curiosity about people.
Yeah.
Even if they're not my, I think you mentioned on your show last week, if we lined up the things we have in common, there wouldn't be a ton.
No.
But there's a lot of stuff to be curious about. And my parents, my dad was a conservative Republican. My mom was a liberal Democrat, yet they managed 40 years of a good marriage, So you don't have to be completely homogenized in your life. And I think that's what's cool about being curious about people is, I feel like I'm very proud of you because I've seen your journey, and I've seen not only your journey of your weight loss, which I'm so impressed by, but I feel like you're a more open human now than you were 2 years ago. And
Really?
I've noticed that. Yeah. And I've noticed that.
That's interesting. In what way? Because that one, it really makes me curious, because I feel like I've been so open for years. I wonder if you're just now seeing some of it.
That could be. But I think you've always had like a swagger about you, which has been cool. And I think there's something about, I don't know, like I feel like you're evolving onto this plane now that you've gone through this personal journey, and you see how much work you're having to put in to get to your goal, right? And
Yeah.
I think maybe it makes someone, when you go through something that hardcore like you're going through, and you're seeing the level of commitment, I think it actually makes someone more empathetic to the world. And now you're 2 years deeper into coaching as well, and you've heard so many more stories of why people haven't been successful or whatever. There's just I think there's a calm maturity to you that I feel like is a little different than it was a couple years ago, where maybe it felt like you were trying to prove yourself still. And now that this wave of new podcasters is coming on, and guess what? You're the first, and now you're still here. And like, now you realize that what you've built and your brand and your foundation is so strong that you're still going to be good,
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe a little, that can be worrisome when you've built this whole brand and this whole thing, and all of a sudden now you've got hundreds and thousands of new shows coming up, and you go, man, am I going to still be relevant? And of course you are.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like I said, I think that you're picking up on some things, because of the connections that we've had via online and some other things lately. But I feel like, boy, if you only heard the first 600 and some odd episodes of Pursuing a Balanced Life, you'd find that as far as me being open and sharing and just, I can't remember the word you just used just a moment ago, but dude,
Empathetic.
Yeah. Well, empathetic, there's no doubt. I mean, every year I am growing more empathetic and do have a whole lot more experience. There's no question. I'm a different person every day as I grow, and I'm growing and stuff like that. But
yeah.
Yeah. So, but when you said feel like you're more open today and more, I don't know if you said vulnerable, but I kind of get that feeling like, you're more vulnerable, you're more open to sharing who you are. It's like, boy, I feel like that's been probably my number one quality from the very beginning. And the interesting thing is, when I quit my career in insurance, the level of authenticity of what I shared, blew most people's mind away. I mean, going through the stuff that I shared. So,
all right, well then never mind. You haven't changed at all, dude.
No, I've changed. There's no question, I've changed, and I certainly see where you're coming from. But I'll tell you what. Let's jump into this. We'll go all over the place because I want to talk about Snapchat for just a moment. And because I don't know about you, but January 27th, I learned about Snapchat, or I jump into Snapchat in a whole new way. I've been on it for a long time since my kids have been on it, but man, January 27th, I am like, wow, I'm really going to give this a shot. I've heard Gary Vee talking about it again, heard some other people on Twit talk about it recently. I'm like, I think this is an inflection point. Some interesting things are going on. I went head first, and dude, I fell in love with this platform. What I've been telling people is like, listen, my podcast consumption on a weekly basis is down 60%. And my Facebook consumption, how much time I spend looking at other people's stuff on Facebook, is down 90%.
Wow.
And all of that attention that went towards those two things, which were the two greatest areas of consumption of content for myself, all of that has gone to Snapchat. And I talk to people about this, and some people are like, I just don't understand. Snapchat, it's all little girls, and it's this, and I get where they're coming from, and I just don't have room or enough time for another platform. And even here's one example. My friend Andy Traub, he swore to me, I am not going to get on Snapchat. I am not going to get, absolutely not. And, it took me 2 different 45-minute conversations. This guy is like head over heels with Snapchat now. I mean, he's actually giving Snapchat advice about Snapchat on Snapchat to people on Snapchat. It's crazy. So what has your experience been on Snapchat?
Well, I was sort of the same. They sort of dragged me kicking and screaming into it. And I remember being with John Lee Dumas a couple months ago, and he got into it, and I wasn't quite there yet. It was like, I remember he was doing snaps and getting like 14 people to view them, and now he's got, a couple thousand. And I didn't really quite get it yet. It took my friend Joel Comm. It took seeing what he was doing, where he really makes these amazing, he's at Joel Comm, makes these amazing stories every day. He's so good at being a producer for Snapchat. Like, he really looks like he's directing his own little sitcoms when he's on it, which is great. And for me, it was kind of like, I think in such a train of thought way, I don't really plan out a lot of, like, I'm going to do this today. But when I get something in my brain and I want to share it, it's right there for me. Like today I shared I've had this new metaphor today of the
chokehold,
the rear naked choke. Yeah. And I do this a lot where I try to make something really relatable for people to really understand. So the idea behind today's snap was that, when you're out in the world and someone says, what do? You need to have a really good answer for that. And I remember giving this advice a number of times, but it dawned on me that an episode I watched of Tim Ferriss with the Tim Ferriss experiment, where he wanted to learn how to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then they taught him, they said, look, I can't teach you all of BJJ in 3 days, but I can teach you one move. I can teach you the rear naked choke, which is a chokehold, and I can teach you 6 ways to get into it. And then, so that's what he learned. He learned those 6 ways. If someone tried to punch him, boom, he could get into it. If they tried to go for his legs, boom, he could get into it. And that he could end the match. And so when you're at a networking event and someone says, what do? You like, at some point, if you can answer that question correctly, you can say something like, in your case, Cliff, what do you do? Well, 5 days a week or 7 days a week, I teach people how to be entrepreneurs or something like that. And someone goes, wow, how do you do that? Boom, rear naked choke. Like that was it. You got them into your funnel. Now you can do that because they're thinking, I want to be an entrepreneur. How do I do this? Right. And so you can have answers for what do you do? How are you doing today? What's new? Like if you have answers for all those things, they can sort of you can bring them into your narrative. Depending on obviously the context of where you are, you don't want to do that like every time you meet someone, but you want to have those sort of handy. And I made that analogy of rear naked choke. So I thought, let me tell that story today on Snapchat. Let me just kind of give someone that little tidbit. And I've done things like that before with Mike Michalowicz's book, Profit First. And I just have these ideas and share them. And I know you do something very similar with yours.
From time to time, I've been playing around with sharing different things in different ways ever since I've been on the platform. I was using it as a daily vlogging tool for a long time, and I quit that while at Social Media Marketing World. It's interesting. I watched that today, by the way, and enjoyed the little tidbit. My own approach when having a conversation, I think of, when I'm having these one-on-one opportunities, my own personal thing isn't how do I get somebody into my funnel? How do I get somebody interested in what I'm doing? My thing is I want to have an impact where when somebody walks away from having an interaction or a conversation with me, they remember me. It's like, I don't need to give them a business card. I don't need them to say, write anything down. It's like, dude, they're going to remember the name Cliff Ravenscraft. They're going to remember the URL podcastanswerman.com. They're going to walk
punch him in the forehead. Podcast Answer Man, yell it and then punch him in the forehead, and they remember you every single time.
Exactly. My goal is that is not so much that I want them to walk away and think of me, but I want them to walk away with that I have had such an impact in their lives through the conversation that, whether I've encouraged them or just listened to them and gave them some valuable advice that immediately removed a mental block that was keeping them from the next level. Whatever the case may be, it's like, wow, I want, for example, every person I met at Social Media Marketing World, it's like my internal goal for a lot of those people to walk away and say, you know what, one of my greatest takeaways was a 15-minute conversation I had with Cliff Ravenscraft.
Right. I like that.
Yeah, I love, and I figure if I can get on people's radar that way, then maybe not, they'll end up in a mailing list or listening to the podcast or whatever the case may be. But one thing's for sure, if the name Cliff Ravenscraft ever comes up, they'll have a warm memory of that interaction, and it's going to be a positive feeling that comes with that recollection.
But that's your funnel, dude. That's the point. Is if that's your goal, fine. That's what that could be the quote unquote sale. Is that you want to leave them with a really positive impact. So you think, okay, what could their possible responses be to those questions? To like, how are you doing today, or blah blah blah. And the way you frame that answer can put it right back on them. Instead of asking the blatant, what are you struggling with right now? How can I help you? You can guide that narrative to eventually get that from them. And they go, wow, that was really cool that, he did this and he shared this story. And all of a sudden, I learned that as an accountant, I can do this or whatever, you left that great impact with them.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's however you frame whatever the result is you want. The point is, have an answer to it.
Have an answer.
That's it. That's all.
So you shared that today, and now here's the thing. I wonder, what I saw today is a slightly different approach to Snapchat than what I saw prior to Social Media Marketing World. And by the way, my own experience, the ways that I've been sharing since Social Media Marketing World is different.
You're talking about from me?
From you. So,
because I don't know, I don't necessarily feel like, because I've done those for a while, but mine are very random. I don't have like a set. One day I'm either just doing a narrative of what my day is, and then another time I'll have this idea and I'll just say, boom, let me share some, drop some bombs with you sometimes.
See what I recall prior to, mostly even prior to today, is that there's been a narrative throughout your day with a couple of these or one of these throughout that day. It dropped in the middle of the narrative. So, for example, Profit First, it's like, hey guys, I just woke up, I did this, and here's this, I just cooked some bacon. I mean, I picked up this, and just little things throughout your day. And then all of a sudden, it's like, so I'm listening to this audiobook. It's called Profit First. I asked John Lee Dumas if I could read one thing about money. What would I, and the whole story. I mean, and I follow it through, but then throughout the rest of the day, there's the little things. It's like, check out the scrapes on the tire for my Porsche, and I'm trying to, I'm bending this in, and I went and got this different spacer. I'm following this stuff. And
yeah, you know what I found though, dude? I found that like 97.9% of people are utterly boring on Snapchat.
I agree.
And I didn't want to I was like, so I'm probably curating a little more now than I was, where I don't have to tell everybody everything, but if it's something interesting,
I'm so
I'll
with
share.
You look at my stories over the last couple days. Ever since social media marketing world, same deal. I am super curating myself, and why am I doing it? Because I was doing the same thing. It's like, hey, here's, I'm eating breakfast. I'm doing this. I'm like, seriously, and then I'm watching other people doing what we're doing, and I'm following a lot of people, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're boring.
Bored
Seriously. I could not be more bored watching your face, over snap to snap to snap to snap. Right. You could not bore me more than you're boring me. and
I think that's right.
But here's what I want to say though. There are a handful of people, maybe 10, 15 at the most, where I actually am digging it,
Right.
the most mundane of things. And so,
it depends on who those people are.
It does. I really do believe it does. And I just want to encourage you. And here's the thing. What I might find interesting, you going to the store and picking up bacon and then frying it later, I may find that intriguing. 70% of the people that are flipping through your story who don't know who you are, don't have an affinity towards what it is that you offer, they're probably bored to tears as well.
Right.
So, but the reality is that there are some people who are finding tremendous amount of value in it. So I asked my audience, what do you guys think about this? And I had all these people who were writing and stuff like that. And Joel's like, man, you share a lot. And, if you shortened it up and you told some more stories. And then I started thinking, I'm going to start being more creative. I'm going to tell more stories. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second. I don't feel like I'm being myself on here. You know what? And I realize it's like, okay, here's what I know is that when I'm more creative and I try to use these emojis and I'm doing little crazy things with music in the background and I find that, I do see the number of people who start the story and then follow it all the way through. When my stories are well thought out and curated, and even, I'm like, hey, let's see if I can keep the entire story from the entire day less than 2 minutes.
Right.
And dude, I saw my number of people clicking through and watching every single snap go through the roof.
Interesting.
But what I can tell you is that my desire to create that content is plummeted. I'm like, this isn't how I feel like sharing. It's like
right.
And so what I've been doing is I've been getting back into sharing a little bit more. And then what I'm doing is it's like, oh, okay, you know what? I didn't need 5 snaps to tell this thing that I'm doing. I wonder if I could delete 3 of the 5 snaps. And so there's 2 of them that remain. And so I do find myself curating more, but I think it's important for us not to just try to create content so that we can get the most number of views, but to be the authentic people that we are and to create the content that we feel most compelled. And the people who are going to find value in it, I think we can more deeply influence in a positive way than trying to appeal to this mass number of people. Does that make sense?
It does. And I will say, just like I say about podcasting, there's very few people that I think are good at it. There's a lot of people that do it, but there's very few that really understand the medium and the narrative behind it. And a lot of, so, 3 years ago, I said, the pros are coming, you guys. FYI, the pros are coming to podcasting. They will, there's people that radio stations are closing down. So there's going to be real pros that know how to run a narrative on a show and know how to interview people and know how to do live reads and know real radio things that a lot of, our generation, if you will, of podcasts, my generation, maybe not yours, don't know how to do. And so I think Snapchat is the same. So today I discovered, I started looking for celebrities to follow on Snapchat. And so just a little tip is I'm doing that move where I edit everyone's name that I want to follow. And I put like a 1 period Cliff Ravenscraft, right? Yep. 1 period Joel Comm. So when I want to search for those people I want to follow, I just have to type 1 period and all those people come up and sort. Well, I added a bunch of celebrities today, like in the Jimmy Fallon show and Snoop Dogg and, Kate Hudson and John Mayer and a bunch of people like that. And I put those all under number 2 period. Because
Yeah.
I want to see what the pros, the people that make their living in the media, I want to see how they start using this platform. And I already learned just by watching Jimmy Fallon, I already learned a bunch of stuff. I said, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. That's an interesting way to frame.
Now, do you
this
see
story.
Jimmy on there? Because I followed Jimmy, and all I got was his, like, this is who's coming up on late night tonight.
Yeah, I think it's probably the same. It's like Fallon Tonight or something.
Yeah, and I found that incredibly boring and stopped following it.
See, because for me, I like to see what the pros are doing and how they frame their guests coming up. Because I thought, okay, I could do the same thing with my guests, you know?
Yeah.
And I like how they're drawing. Like they do some cool drawings on there, and I just think they do a good job. But today, to be fair, literally today is the only day that I've ever checked it out. So it might bore me by tomorrow.
Well, the thing is, and if I'm looking for, obviously, I'm glad that they call it Fallon Tonight because it's obviously promotion for the show. But what I'm looking for is, dude, I'd love to see Jimmy Fallon on Snapchat being Jimmy Fallon. I'll give you a perfect example of a celebrity being a celebrity on Snapchat that is absolutely awesome. Eva Longoria.
Oh, I saw her today. I didn't add her, but I will.
Add her. She is so real, so human, and I just have a greater appreciation for Eva Longoria than I ever have before. And I don't know if you know this, I used to be a huge, massive fan of Desperate Housewives.
Okay.
Stephanie and I did a podcast called the Desperate Housewives Fan Podcast, and we loved that show. And this platform, Snapchat, has made her just this really easy to relate to human being. It in a way, it kind of takes her off of that big, high platform. I'm way up here. I'm just this ultra human being who is much different than anybody else in the world.
Right.
But, dude, she's, it's fun. Watch Eva Longoria.
I'm going to add her right now. I'm going to do the deal. There she is.
Yep.
Real Eva Longoria on Snapchat.
Absolutely. It's okay. She's fun to follow.
Yeah, I like it. I loved it. And that's the thing is, we blow up, we put celebrities on pedestals, but there is something about what they know. And, they are exposed to the highest level of, media and advertising and promotion all the time. So they get the hustle. And for me, it's cool to see how they might take this platform and do something interesting with it.
Yeah. Well, back to podcasting, because I don't want to do too much on Snapchat because Joel's going to be on the show next week, and I have no doubt we're going to talk on Snapchat.
He's the man.
He is the man.
Look at you doing interviews too in like a week.
I know, this is crazy, folks. Just a reminder: I am not going to an interview format. But I hung out with Michael last week, and I hung out with Joel, and a conversation came up between the three of us. Hey, when can I get on your show? And I'm like, Michael's like, I've been waiting to get on your show forever. I'm like, all right, let's do this. And so that's what we're doing. So, but going back to your podcasting, so you start your show in August 2013, Solopreneur Hour, right?
That's correct. Yeah, August 2013, right.
All right. So I do recall you inviting me on David Wood's show years ago.
Yeah.
All right.
True.
And then I think you probably had me on one more time, but it was the Solopreneur Hour by that time.
That's right.
I believe
it's not the same show, but yeah,
no, that's what I meant. When I say you again, I mean, I to be honest with you, I have no idea who David Wood is.
Sure. And nor did he know you, but I knew that I knew that he's a good interviewer, and I knew that you were a guy that I wanted to hear from.
But for whatever reason, when I was on his show, I felt like I was on your show.
Well, that's I can see that.
Matter of fact, if anybody ever asked me, it's like, hey, did you know David Wood? He has this this top 5, top 10 podcast. Have you ever heard of it? No, I've never heard of it.
Right, exactly.
That's exactly what I would have said. I've never heard of David Wood. But
it all blends.
But the funny thing is like, yeah, have you ever heard of the Kick-Ass show? Yeah, I've been a guest, Michael O'Neill.
Right, right, exactly.
So
I'm sure he would have loved that.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have. That's all right. Nobody listens to this one. Don't worry about it.
Eva Longoria just snapped 1 minute ago.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
I'm very excited to. I'm going to put her in my number 2s.
Do me a favor. Open up right now and tell me what you see. I'll be interested for you to describe what that snap was.
Okay.
Or right. 1 or 2 snaps there.
Okay. I'm going to hit the number 2, hit save, as I do. And then here we go. Sped up. And now she's doing a filter. She's got a little country hat on. And now she's doing Pilates. She's looking good, Eva Longoria.
Yeah.
Not a bad pile of genetics over there, Cliff.
Well, and let me tell you that you'll see sometimes she's got all of her makeup on and all that other stuff. But the cool thing is that she literally will Snapchat when she's got up out in the morning, no makeup on. The kids, her kids are climbing all over her, and she's laying in the bed with her kids snapping, and it's just real human being stuff. Hair's a mess. I mean, it's not what you would expect from a celebrity who is a model and an actress that's at her level, and it's just real human being stuff. I love it.
I like that. That's a good deal. Cool. Anyway, podcasting. So yes. So you make a living from podcasting. Would you say those terms? Oh yeah, for sure.
All right,
100%. And I have since probably about 7 or 8 months into my show.
All right. What's your business model? I want to know. The world wants to know.
And I think you'll find this pretty normal for people that I would say are quote unquote successful in this world. I didn't have one when I started the show. I just wanted to do the show. You know,
why did you want to do the show?
Because I wanted an excuse to talk to people that interested me.
And that's the reason. You weren't looking to make money.
No. In fact, I thought I would be doing like podcast consulting to make money.
Okay.
You know, like I would help people start a show.
Yeah.
That's where my brain was with it.
Yeah. I once thought that myself.
I know. Yeah. And that's the thing is, and I did for a little while. Like when I started the show, I had people that would hire me, and oh yeah, $1,000, help you launch the show. And now that number is much higher. But it was like the way I framed it, because the show's the solopreneur hour. And for me, anytime you hire someone's business, but you really get them, that's a solopreneur. And that also includes not only like business people, but authors and speakers and actors and comedians and musicians. And, you know, again, anybody that has to have that hustle to keep their business going. And those are all, it could be Eva Longoria. And those people are really fascinating to me. Whenever I got like a Hollywood writer on, or a big time comedian or something, totally fascinated by the behind the scenes and the hustle and what does it really take. And I'm talking to Anthony Jeselnik about, like, he's got the #1 show on Netflix about, like, and he's got really edgy humor.
What show?
And what's that?
What's the show? I've not heard of this guy.
Anthony Jeselnik is a comic.
Okay.
And you wouldn't like him.
Okay.
He's not your cup of tea.
Gotcha. Is that the name of the show? It's the Anthony whatchamacallit
Anthony
show?
Anthony Jeselnik, Thoughts and Prayers is his special. He's a stand-up. He's a stand-up comic.
Cool.
So,
okay.
And he's really super edgy. I don't know if you know who Stephen Wright is.
Oh, yeah. I know Stephen Wright really well.
If you like Stephen Wright, it's Stephen Wright with a super intentionally dark, offensive twist at the end. Like on purpose. He wants to offend you at the end. So, right up my alley. And so, but to hear, and his humor is like, you really, once you get over the shock of what you're hearing, you go, whoa, that is, because he's brilliant. He's really, really super smart, and he's got great timing, but it's also super edgy. And so for me, I always thought, okay, I get it when 500 people come to a show that they want to hear you because they know you now. But what happens when he was brand new and people didn't know him at all, and he's trying to open for Jim Gaffigan or something, and he's got to like win this crowd over with this super edgy material? That's a fascinating angle for me, and that's the thing that I would want to ask.
So those are the things that you would explore with a guest like that.
That's right.
And your goal, your takeaway is, you know, what kind of principles or something like that can I learn and apply to myself to make myself more successful? Maybe?
Not necessarily, dude.
You just find it interesting.
It's interesting and entertaining. For me, no matter what I do, entertainment comes first.
Okay.
I don't promise that you're about to hear an hour of actionable content.
That's
and I don't
good.
I don't care if you got any out of it.
Yeah.
But what I hope is that you were entertained for an hour and you don't want that hour back.
You know, for myself, I have 4 keywords that go along with all the content that I create. I want it to either be entertaining, educational, encouraging, or inspirational. So I'm okay to create an episode. I'm okay to get on here with Michael O'Neill and talk for an hour and just have it be entertaining for folks.
Yeah, but you know what happens,
But
though,
the
dude?
thing is my goal is that people will be encouraged, or they will be educated, or they will be inspired to do something.
Right.
But as long as it hits on one of the four, I'm okay with it. I'd rather it hit two, at least two of those cylinders. And boy, if we can hit on all four cylinders, then that's a hit out of the park.
Right. The thing is, with a show like this, very specifically, the show we're doing right now, we smuggle the value in. You don't see it. It's not like you were like, give me top 10 tips for Snapchat, or give me a great way to connect with someone at a networking event. But they just got that. They just got, I had someone who responded to that snap we were talking about today and said, dude, that's literally the best advice I've gotten in 2016 and the best snap I've ever seen. They just got it. They understood what I was going for. And so my show has always been about, let me have this conversation, and there's a little silent rudder that I'm steering under the undertone, where I get to Trojan horse this value, but it's wrapped up in an entertaining candy shell.
So, but you're entertainment first.
That's right. I've always been.
But are you intentionally in every episode you want to make sure that there's value? No,
not at all.
If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Exactly.
As long as I entertained you for an hour.
That's right. But here's, if someone did an overhead projector of the show, my show sounds super unformatted, but it's really pretty formatted. I'll do the first 10 or 15 minutes with like a non sequitur.
Yep.
Where you don't even know what we're talking about. And like, why are they talking about, home stereo stuff? Or why are they talking about this band? Right. But what that's doing, as you know, as an interviewer, it's loosening the guest up. And they go, oh, okay, wait a second. I've got a little flexibility here. I can talk about what we want to talk about. So I do that. And then, we get into their backstory. And then I usually do my ad read if I have an ad. And then the second half of the show, I do try to dig into a little bit about what they're known for. I want to make sure that if they wrote a book, we talk about the book. Those kinds of things. But it's not very blatant. And I want people to understand that there's a story behind it. And once they hear the story, it becomes really relevant for them and they remember the lesson within the story. So I did that. And I had people that resonated with it. So they started writing me and saying, dude, do you coach or do you teach? And I didn't have anything like that set up. But after about 40 of those, I said, all right, maybe I should do something. Maybe I should do some kind of coaching. So August, September, October, November, December. So about 5 months into the show, I launched a group called Solo Lab. And I just had an idea. I started talking about it in November. I said, hey guys, would anybody be interested in a group coaching program if I did it? And if you are, here's a little landing page. I set up a landing page with like lead pages or something, or Aweber. And if they were interested, they could write, and then they could book themselves using scheduleonce.com. They could book themselves on a little 15-minute Skype chat with me. And I just booked them on, I think, 3 days. I did back-to-back 15-minute Skype chats for 3 days. And I probably did 40 of them, Cliff.
Okay.
I probably did 40 of those back-to-back. And that was the number of people that were interested in some kind of coaching. And I had these conversations with them, and I said, all right, if you are definite yes, or are you, like, if I started this next week, are you definite yes, definite no, definite maybe? And I got about 17 to 20 definite yeses. I said, okay. So that was enough for me to go, all right, I'm gonna set it up. I'm gonna make a membership site, and I'm gonna have a launch date. It was like December 6th or something.
Okay.
And out of those people that said yes, I think 13 signed up the first day. My limit was 10. If I could get 10, then I would do it. And if I didn't get 10, then I wasn't going to do it. It wasn't time yet. And I got 13 the first day. I got 6 or 7 the next day. And before I knew it, I had, 45, 50 people in this coaching group.
How much are they paying?
And they were paying, at the time, they were paying $300 a quarter. That was the only thing.
So $100 a month?
Yeah, about $100 a month.
Okay.
It's since gone up a bit, but I had up until, I had 80 people in that thing, and then I raised the prices and toned it down, and I like it around where it is, which is about 50 or 60 people is my sweet spot for it.
So I'd love to know a little bit more about this. First of all, what's the price today?
The price today is about $500 a quarter.
Okay.
But they get it, it's $450 if they do it quarterly, it's $1,500 if they do it yearly, and it's $167 if they do it monthly.
Okay.
So
good
they
deal.
pay a little more.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's the idea of what they're paying. It's group
That's right.
coaching. So you mentioned a membership site. What did you set up for your membership site? What are you using?
I used S2 Member. It integrated really well with Optimized Press. It was part of the what I was using. But what's funny about it is I had this whole big elaborate launch set up, and John Lee Dumas said, dude, just launch with a Facebook group.
Yep.
And so I said, all right. And I did. That's all I had. I literally just had a Facebook group day one.
Okay. So you didn't have this whole S2 member set up day one. You just launched with the Facebook group.
They used it. Like I used S2 member to do the subscription through PayPal.
Okay.
You know?
Yep.
And that's all it is. It's like S2 member and it couldn't have been leaner. There's nothing to it. And I promised the first 10 people that signed up that I would do 2 30-minute one-on-one coaching calls with them whenever they wanted. That was like the incentive to sign up, right? And then what I found is that I loved doing those coaching calls. I'd never done them before. And so I just added that as a thing that you get in Solo Lab. So now it's like, all right, so now you sign up, you get the private Facebook group, and you get these 2 coaching calls per quarter. And then I added a Wednesday night Google Hangout where everyone who's on the Hangout gets a hot seat and gets their questions answered. And that's it. That's what I have. That's the group.
Okay,
it's been like that for 2.5 years now.
So I just want to make sure that I understand. And right. We're not trying to sell your lab here, but if anybody's interested, by all means, go check it out.
iwantsololab.com. You can visit me.
There you go. iwantsololab.com. But I'm more interested in this from the coaching and product perspective. So
yes.
So the idea is that they're paying whatever rate you just said.
That's
and
right.
They sign up today, and every quarter they get one coaching session. They get two
30-minute coaching calls with me.
2 30-minute coaching calls.
That's right.
Per quarter. And then
in any by the way, any subdivisions, meaning like they could be starting a podcast, or they could be writing a book, or they could be just trying to launch their first little side gig.
They just want to brainstorm something with you.
That's right. Just like one of my gifts is that I'm able to connect very disparate dots and help people. I call it find your swing. I can learn what people's hobbies are, what their interests are, and what their skills are. And I go, all right, this is a good option for you to start a business. You could do this. And it could be a blog or a podcast or a YouTube channel, or they could write a book, or they could do a one-on-one business or whatever. It just depends on the person.
All right. So 2 30-minute one-on-one sessions with you. And then how often do you do the group sessions?
Every week, every Wednesday, 5:00 PST.
All right. Every Wednesday, you do a group session. And what are you using to perform that group session?
Google Hangout.
Google Hangouts.
Yeah.
And so
if I get more people that are on than the Hangouts, because I think it only does like 8 or 9 or something.
Okay.
People will come in, they'll ask their question. Everyone gets their question answered. Like I don't leave anybody out. And then they'll have it, and then they'll drop off, and they'll drop to view only.
Yeah.
You know. So, and then they're still participating, and they're still chatting and stuff like that, but then they're just not on the live chat with us.
You have about 40 to 50 people in the Solo Lab altogether.
Right, yeah, that's right.
And how many people on average would you say show up on the weekly calls?
10 to 12 usually.
Yep.
Maybe 8 to 12, something like that. And that's about right.
Awesome.
25%.
Cool.
Is about normal.
And
it's great.
So and then of course they have ongoing 24-hour access to communicate with one another within the private Facebook group.
Right. And I'm in the process now. I'm actually in the process of doing a major like Solo Lab upgrade where I'm gonna do. It's going to be a big resource for anybody that signs up on the regular level, but less involvement from me directly. It'll be a lot of videos and that kind of thing. And then there's going to be like an elite version, which will be like kind of what it is now, if you will.
Gotcha.
So we'll see. And then anyway, so that was the first, that was how I monetized first. And I do recommend that if you have a skill and you can coach it, that's typically the first way you can monetize. You can do it one-on-one.
Yep.
For a while until you get that dialed in. And then if you feel like you've got your chops about you, then you can bang it out and do it as a group. So I did that. And then it was a couple months later that I started getting calls from advertisers that wanted to be on the show. I think GoDaddy was the first one, and they liked it. And I ended up working with them for 2 years on the show, and that was cool. And now I still have an advertiser. I got bought a big HostGator bought a big chunk of time from me. So I'm running them now, but I can see myself doing like at least one ad per episode. Right now, I'm just doing every other episode. I'm doing an ad, but I think, as you know, I don't know if you take ads or not, but if you can do them and you can integrate them and it's not canned and it's part of the show. I think you can do it, and it's kind of nice to get paid for doing something you're already doing.
Yeah.
That's one good thing about ads. But that was the second thing. And then the third monetization was, once this thing survived, and I said, okay, I feel like I'm pretty good at this. I've done it now for a couple of years. I've been able to make a living at it, doubled my income from anything I've ever done before. I could probably teach some people this thing. And, and my take on it, it's much more like you and I have a lot in common from that respect, is that we take the art very seriously. And so I said, I'm going to start this like one-day workshop where I'm going to take people that just have a podcast, but they really want to turn it into a real business, and I'm going to help them. And that is called Pod Mastery. And then I invited John Lee Dumas to do it with me. Obviously, he's had tons of success in the podcast world. So we've done 2 of them now, which are these one-day workshops. And people pay $1,000 to be there for the day, or they pay $5,000 to do a private VIP day with us.
Right.
And that's
just one-on-one, right?
Just one-on-one. Yeah. So it's John and I, and then with that one person for the day. And so we've done 2 of those now. We have, whatever that is. I think we did 20 the first time and 15 the second time. And we did 2 VIPs the first time. And then I don't think we had any the second time. But then people from from that thing, I have a podcast launch thing, which is $5,000, which I will like hand help and curate your show. And it's those kinds of things. Like, I feel like if you are an entrepreneur, you find opportunity and you find a way to take the skill set you have and help people with it. And I think you do the exact same thing. I know you have many versions of how you show up in this coaching world, depending on what people need.
Right. Interesting stuff. So right now, if I get your business model as it's developed over time, you have the Solo Lab is a significant, ongoing, recurring source of income for you. You're starting to add more and more advertisers, which is allowing you to monetize something you're doing anyway. And then you have these Pod Mastery events. You've done 2 of these, events over the course of a couple days or weeks or whatever. Any other sources of income that you currently are pursuing?
You're not with the IRS, right? Well, a couple things. One is that I would like to see the one-day thing evolve into a weekend, and not just for podcasting. I really want to have the unemployable weekend. That's my tagline is job security for the unemployable. Because I know you are completely unemployable at this point.
Oh yeah,
as am I. So it's a celebration of that. That's not a negative in my world. It's proudly unemployable. So I'd like to see that grow bigger. And then the other big thing that happened is in September, I connected with a former NFL player named Hines Ward, who's a Pittsburgh Steeler, won a couple Super Bowls, then won Dancing with the Stars, then became an Ironman triathlete. And he's got a 2 million person social media following. So we sort of walked into this thing. He also happens to be one of my total sports heroes.
Right.
And crazily enough, I'm now co-hosting a show with him.
Yep.
That we launched in February. And that one has real potential to bring in, 6 figures a month of ad revenue. And so, if I had my druthers, Cliff, I don't know that how much, I would probably limit my coaching to some pretty small, high-end clients. And I would just do the shows. Yeah. You know what I mean? I would do the shows. I would make some good money, with advertising. And then really focus on trying to do big live events.
I like it.
Yeah.
Interesting. So things are going well. I enjoy following you on Snapchat. Like I said, I know you're a car guy, professional drummer. You're getting ready to go to Colorado doing a reunion gig with your brother.
That's right. Sorry, I muted you accidentally. Yeah, that's right. We're about to go play. I haven't played with this band in 10 years, and we were playing Red Rocks the last time we saw them in Colorado, which is one of the ultimate bucket list items to play music.
That's this big, huge natural amphitheater, right?
Oh man! And it if you ever see U2 live under a blood red sky, that was Red Rocks. Dave Matthews live at Red Rocks. I mean, every major artist seems like they've recorded at Red Rocks, and so it was an absolute life treat to be able to actually play there and do that. So we get to play again with this band. I get to play with my brother. I'm surprising him with a guitar. No one tell him that if you hear this podcast.
I've heard all about it.
It's really, really cool. And it's one of the things that, if you'd asked me that a couple years ago and I said, yeah, I'm going to gift my brother this guitar that costs multi-thousands of dollars, it would be insane to think about. And now when someone says, what's your why? I say, well, I really like to give people big, fat, hairy gifts. And I really do. And I also like to buy like dinners and meals for people. It's like a thing that I genuinely love to do. And so that's my why. I want to be able to be in a position to do those things for my friends and not ever have to worry about it.
Nice.
You know?
Well, your podcast, Solopreneur Hour, where can they find it?
It's at Solo Hour or solohour.com because no one can spell preneur. So solohour.com.
And on Snapchat, your username is?
Solohour.com/snap is what you can go to on your web browser, or it's at Solo Hour on the Snapchats.
Cool. Well, I'll tell you, I really appreciate you spending some time. By the way, we literally scheduled this last minute. I'm like, you know what? I'm running right up on that Friday morning, 5 a.m. deadline to get an episode out.
Oh,
and,
cool.
You know, Michael and I have been going back and forth on what are we going to talk about, you know, because I don't normally do an interview show. It's like, hey, let's just have a conversation. I'm like, okay, are you available tonight in a couple hours?
Yeah. How do you feel?
No, it's great. I feel really good about it. And you know what? I do find that this episode is definitely entertaining. So it's definitely got that. And for me, if it was only entertaining, it wouldn't be enough. But
yes,
I do believe that there was some education in here. I believe there's a little bit of encouragement for some folks. And I think there might be a couple items in there that might inspire some people to take some action on some things. So
I think we dropped some knowledge bombs, bro.
I think we hit on all four cylinders. So I really appreciate your time. And folks, go check him out, solohour.com. Well, my friends, thank you so much for listening in on this conversation with my friend Michael O'Neill. I hope that you found some value out of it. Before I run out of here, I want to remind you that my next session of Podcasting A to Z is coming up on Monday, May 23rd. If you've been thinking about launching a podcast, but you just have been dragging your feet, you haven't yet quite pulled the trigger yet, this is your opportunity to have me as your personal coach walking you through every single step in the process. I'll help you find the right equipment that is the right fit for exactly what you want to do and will fit within your budget. I will help you understand how to hook all that equipment up. I'll listen to some sample audio recordings from you. I will give you feedback. I will help you discern the right artwork for your show, all of that stuff, so that by the end of a 4-week period of time, you will have a successfully launched show in iTunes. If that's interesting to you, head over to podcastinga2z.com for more details and to register for the course. Most important, when you go to podcastinga2z.com, I want to encourage you to start by going to the very bottom of the page and just read the testimonials. And you will find that this is not just like any other online course out there that is a bunch of pre-recorded materials, which, by the way, there are some pre-recorded materials. But you are absolutely going to have me as your private coach during this entire 4-week process. Again, head over to podcastinga2z.com. You'll find that the testimonials at the bottom of the page will align with what I'm sharing with you right there. Anyway, I look forward to the potential of working with you. Podcastinga2z.com.
Podcast. Add some man.